Oldsmobile 455. This motor was based off of the Oldsmobile 425. In 1968, the 425 stroke was lengthened to 4¼ inches, although it retained the bore from the discontinued 425. Versions differed and were used in many vehicles. The motor produced 275 to 400 horsepower depending on the application. Most notably of which was the Oldsmobile 442. A rather strange application was in mid-70s GMC motorhomes. Below is a picture of a Rocket 455 and a 1968 Delmont 88. Chrysler Big Block 440. The Chrysler 440 was produced from 1965 until 1978. It was the last of the RB series engines. Notable cars it came in were the Dodge Challenger, the Plymouth Barracuda, and a lot of police cars and emergency vehicles of the era. Performance varies from year to year and between applications. From 1969 to 1971, the high-performance version was rated at 375 horsepower, and the 440 six-pack, 3 2-barrel carburetors installed on a single 440, produced 390 horsepower. In the 70s, performance dwindled as emissions controls took over, along with different ways of testing horsepower. The 440 only ended up putting out 255 horsepower and was only for police duty. The Ford 289. Introduced in 1963, the 289 with a 2-barrel carburetor was brought into production to replace the 260 V8. Early performance specs were 190 horsepower and 258 foot-pounds of torque. In 1964, a performance package was introduced and gave it 210 horsepower with 300 foot-pounds of torque. It came as the new motor in the 1964.5 Mustang and the new Fairlane. The 289 K-Code was introduced in late 1963 and produced 271 horsepower and 312 foot-pounds of torque. These Ford V8 car engines powered the Mercury Comet and became an option for Mustangs in June of 1964. They are highly sought after and very valuable. Chevrolet 409. The Chevrolet 409 was introduced in the early years of muscle. It was announced alongside the Impala SS. From the beginning, it was well known for its performance. It was so legendary that the Beach Boys wrote a whole song dedicated to racing their car with a 409 dual quad, 2 4-barrel carbs under the hood. At that time, the 409 made 360 horsepower, and by the end of its run in 1965, it produced an astounding figure of 425 horsepower. Chevrolet 350 Small Block. One of the most well-known engines of all time, and a very long-lived one at that. The 350 was originally only available in the SS version of the Camaro or the Chevy 2/Nova. Power output was 300 horsepower and torque output was 380 foot-pounds. In 1971, the compression was lowered, and by 1972, the motor was only available in a Nova if you got the SS package. And by the mid-70s, the power output was throttled by emissions control until it was below 200 horsepower. Aftermarket support was, and is still readily available, as the engine proved to be very reliable and easy to build and tune power out of. This motor and its variants were used for years in just about every application imaginable. Ford 302 Windsor. The 5.0 Windsor, not to be confused with the Coyote 5.0, was a very long-lived and widely used engine. It originated in 1967 as a motor based off of the one used in the GT40 race car. Ford needed a high-performance motor for their cars that would easily fit in the bay of a Mustang or smaller cars. The engine itself wasn't born until 1968, and although bred as a high-performance engine, it found its way into trucks and passenger vehicles with sometimes almost half of the power it was originally rated for. It became another engine that was hurt by emissions control and detuning for help with fuel economy. I should know this. My mother has a 1989 Lincoln Town Car with a 5.0, and it has around 150 horsepower. And the Chrysler 426 Hemi. With its NASCAR roots and drag racing history, this engine was famous from the start and was a mega hit. While the original 426 wasn't street legal or available to the public, it was so well respected and known for its great performance that Chrysler decided to make a civilian version. The original version came out in 1964. It was then banned after one season in NASCAR due to it not being available in a production vehicle. So, in 1965, Mopar released a handful of drag racing cars that were available to the public to get the green light to use it in NASCAR once again. Later on in 1965, it was released in quite a few street cars offered by Mopar and was available until 1971. Stock, on the dynamometer, it produced 433.5 horsepower and 472 foot-pounds of torque. This V8 engine is still used in drag racing today.